I missed your countdown.
I know. I just don't do it anymore. We are live. Chapter 31, the subjunctive. This is a fantastic conjugation. Subjunctive is like it's just like the indicative verb, except for it's not. Whereas the indicative verb communicates an action, whether ongoing or completed, what the subjunctive does is the subjunctive turns it into a possibility. So it's not guaranteed. So if you look at the very definition on page 288, starts in 31.5, it says the basic definition of the subjunctive and indicative moods in Greek is similar to English. There are, however, several significant differences. Aspect. The Greek verb has absolute. The thing you need to remember is that there is not a time significance. Okay? Indicative is the only thing that with an aspect communicates time on some level. Not even strongly, but on some level. In the subjunctive, you just don't get that. Okay, so let's look at the form down on the bottom of page 289. You get your present tense stem, okay, which is good because that's the one you recognize from your vocab. So you get the present tense stem, you get a lengthened connecting vowel. Now you guys saw this in your text criticism assignment, right? Yeah, this was the very problem with ekamen versus ekomen, right? And when it's lengthened, that omicron is lengthened to an omega, it makes it a subjunctive, which makes it it's a theological issue, right? So it's the difference between definitely having peace with God or maybe having it, right? So the subjunctive lengthens that connecting vowel, and that's really how you identify it as a subjunctive. And it uses the primary personal index. So there's really not a lot to learn about the forming of the subjunctive. You just have to be aware when you see a verb you're used to, but you see that connecting vowel lengthening, then you need to ask yourself, hey, is that subjunctive? You're going to notice that things get a little bit irritating, though, because if you look at, say, for instance, the first singular active for the subjunctive in 31.9 paradigm, if you notice for luo, because there is no connecting vowel, you really can't tell whether that's a subjunctive or not, right? You're going to have to wait on other things. You're going to have to lean on other things to tell you how it's functioning. But you can see how it's doing the rest of them. The epsilons are lengthening into etas, omicrons into omegas, and it's pretty straightforward, right? So your aorist, because this is not in the indicative and time is not an issue here, the aorist in the subjunctive also does not have an augment, right?
Right. Question.
Yes.
So if we were to get luo as a parsing question, would we have to just parse it both ways?
I just parse it. I mean, you're no, not necessarily. Just parse it. Yeah, indicative active. You're not wrong. You're right. So, yeah, I mean, for the most part, that would be indicative active, but you're going to be able to tell it's subjunctive based on things around it.
Okay.
So you're not going to run into a lot of those at all.
Roger.
So the aorist is an unaugmented aorist tense stem. And plus the tense formative, which is the sigma, lengthen connecting vowel, and then primary personal index. Lusomen, second aorist, labomen. So you can see the aorist paradigms over here. Now, what you'll notice is the alphas are lengthening to an eta, right? The epsilons are lengthening to an eta. The sigma alpha, Now, what you'll notice here is that there is not a sigma alpha connecting tense formative. So the sigma is what absolutely gives it away.
Okay.
Okay. You can see the passive has the theta there. Lutho, luthase, luthe, luthomen, luthete, luthose, luthosi. So there's no future subjunctive at all. So you got to remember that when you see the sigma, it's not possible for it to be a future subjunctive. That's the reason why they don't feel like they need to put the alpha tense formative in there. It would just complicate things. So they just leave it a sigma, and since there's no future subjunctive, it's automatically an aorist every time. So, good. Perfect. Now wait a minute, I have a quick question. I don't know where my sheet is. Do one of you guys have the sheets? Your laminated sheet? Can I repeat what, Aaron?
What you just said.
Okay, in typically the aorist would have a tense formative of sigma alpha, right?
The aorist would have a tense formative.
Sigma alpha.
Sigma alpha? Yes. Okay.
And a future indicative would have a sigma.
And a future indicative would just have a sigma. Yes.
Right. But in the subjunctive, the aorist has just a sigma, not a sigma alpha.
Right.
You can't get it confused, and the reason it does that is because the alpha can make things complicated, especially with lengthening connecting vowels.
Yeah.
So the truth is that it just takes over the sigma the aorist does because there is no subjunctive future.
Right.
So you got to keep that in your mind as you go.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. The other thing you have to keep in mind, and what I like to do is take this different from the way you remember it. You remember the aorist. What kind of endings does the aorist indicative use?
The aorist indicative.
Yeah, look at your master verb chart.
It takes secondary endings.
Okay, but in the subjunctive, what kind of endings does it take?
Primary.
Yes. So in the subjunctive, your endings are shifting to luo, lues, lue, luamen, luete, luusi endings.
Yeah.
As opposed to the blank sigma blank mente nu.
Yeah. Can y'all hear everyone around me, or is this okay?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
You can hear my dorm slamming and my dog barking.
It's all right. So that's one thing you got to make sure you tweak a little bit. Now, for the aorist, again, the big identifying feature is that lengthening connecting vowel.
Yeah.
But you still have to do a little work to work around. You got to know there's no future. So when you see a sigma, you need to think aorist. But you don't need to get tricked up by the endings, because the endings, even though aorist indicative uses secondary, the subjunctive is going to use the primary endings.
Does future use primary?
Yes. That's why you got to be careful.
So the biggest thing I'm going to struggle with aorist subjunctive is thinking that it's future.
Okay, well, think about it this way, Aaron. Okay? Again, the main identifying feature is that lengthening connecting vowel.
Right.
So if you see something that looks like it's future subjunctive, in your head you need to just say, oh, that's aorist subjunctive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, I'm actually I'm amazingly okay with you identifying it as future. Like, oh, future subjunctive. I see the lengthened future subjunctive. Just as long as your head can make that little tick to say, wait a minute, there's no future subjunctive. That's an aorist subjunctive because it looks a lot like a future subjunctive.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to get confused with is like that third singular with the eta, iota subscript. I'm going to think that's a noun, but I'm going to see that it's attached to a verb. So I just need to...
Yeah, but that's not new, Aaron.
Yeah, I know. I'm just processing out loud like that. I feel like that might trip me up. But anyways, but I understand what you're saying.
Where else do we see that in the third singular?
Where else do we see that?
Yeah, where else do we see that? It's not just subjunctive. Even though that's a good thought, it's not just subjunctive. Where else do we see
Which one?
It's on 31.11 on page 291. The third singular, she's saying she's concerned she's going to think it's a noun, a dative noun. But that's not new to subjunctive, because if you remember in our contract verbs, you also get an eta with a iota subscript. Right?
Eta with it.
Think of this past exam. You had a parsing on your exam that was agape with an eta and iota subscript.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? How did you parse that?
Agape is from It's from agapao.
Okay, so it's a verb, not a noun.
Right.
That's interesting. Why would
so, because it contracted.
Right, and so a contract verb can do that eta iota subscript also.
Yeah.
So that verb was actually a present active indicative verb.
Right.
So the subjunctive isn't throwing something new in here.
Yeah.
Now what you're going to see is you're going to see that on verbs that are not contract verbs.
On verbs that are not contract. Yes.
Right.
So like with, how do you pronounce that? Labe.
Where's that?
On 31.11 with the second aorist.
Okay. Yeah, labe. So yeah.
So like in my mind, that. Okay, so there's nothing else that comes similar to that we have done, because I know that lambda, alpha, beta is the aorist tense or the root of lambano.
Yes.
And so when I see that, I just instantly think aorist.
You should, yeah. And the second aorists are going to be easier in that sense because you're going to see the stem mutate.
Right.
But if you can recognize it as a verb,
right,
and recognize that it's not a contract verb, but yet it's got this eta.
Hello?
He froze.
Hello?
Okay.
Can you repeat that? You froze again.
Did I freeze?
To me.
Yeah, he froze.
I'm sorry, where did I freeze?
Second areas are not going to be hard because you're going to see.
Yeah, you're going to see the mutation of the stem.
Okay.
And so you're going to see that, but when you get to anything that you recognize as a verb that has that eta iota subscript that's not a contract verb, at that point you just have to go, wait a minute, that's a third singular. Because it seems like that can be a bunch of different stuff. Did I freeze again?
Yeah.
Dang it.
It's okay. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Apparently we're having internet issues. And did you just quote the Ice Queen to me? Let it go.
No.
Frozen?
I didn't do that. What?
No, I'm talking Sharon.
Oh.
Okay. So.
Oh, I just saw that. That's funny.
So we're looking for that lengthened contract vowel. Try not to make this more difficult than what it is. Subjunctives are typically easy to see, and a lot of times subjunctives are at the beginning of a sentence, but that's not always the case, so don't lean on that.
Okay.
Now look over at 31.12 and look at how the contract verbs react.
I know. This is where I was like, I'm not about this life.
I'm not about this life. I can't live in a world where this is a thing.
Yeah, like seriously.
Yeah. So, okay. So the contract verbs. Now, what do you notice about the contract verbs that's going to help you identify?
Circumflex. But that doesn't help me because...
Why not?
Because the circumflex was destroyed when we did something else, and it makes me insecure when I see it. What was that, Strawn? What's that?
Future.
Future?
Yeah, because contract verbs always do the circumflex, but then when you get to a future liquid, like minnow,
Yeah.
you do circumflex also.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of a pain in the rear.
Yeah, and there was something else too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It
Like what?
it was something that we just recently learned in the last class.
Okay, like a participle or something?
Yeah, something like that. But then again, like you have the ending of the participle.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, you have a lot of things. Again, this is, remember, Aaron, very beginning of Greek 1, I said, it's like layering filters.
Right.
You got to keep the filters set. Don't get overly confused. Just take all the information you know and let it filter through that information. And then on the other side, you should come out with yeah, it's got to be this.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff just narrows it down.
I just think it's just like remembering all the stuff.
You're right. There is a little bit to that. But let me assure you, right now you're in grammar fatigue.
Yeah.
So once you get into actually translating and working through things, you're going to love that you have all this knowledge.
Okay.
And it's just going to solidify.
Okay.
But you're in grammar fatigue. There's no doubt. It's okay. It's normal.
Yeah.
Everybody hits it, especially when you've got being shoved down your throat, and you know you've got Greek exegesis coming.
Stop.
To be honest, you're in grammar fatigue. It's just the way it is.
Yes.
So circumflex is contract.
Right. So in your contract verbs, you're going to get that circumflex over the letter. And if you notice, in the first singular, for some words, the alpha omega words, you're not going to get the alpha going to an eta, because that's what epsilon omega words do.
What? Okay, they are different enough that you should look at things.
You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Okay. If you look at the contract verbs, things get a little different, because it seems like in the singular and the present, they don't lengthen. They just put a circumflex over.
Yeah, it just takes away the alpha and just puts a circumflex.
Yeah. So that can be annoying.
Yeah, because it's not like it's contracting. It's just taking away the alpha, the epsilon.
No. Let me the epsilon.
Right, Joseph?
No.
Okay.
Are you talking about Geno at the very beginning?
Yes.
Yeah, it cannot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Geno, now that's normal, because the omega always consumes the contract vowel. But if you look right below it, Genos, the alpha's still there.
Aha.
Yeah. And if you look over at the omicron omega words, your omicron stays an omicron, not an omega.
I'm just trying to figure out what's contracting. So, okay, so like if you were to write this out, it would be for second singular, gamma, epsilon, nu, alpha, epsilon, iota, sigma.
Sure.
And
there's a
then,
contraction that's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, now,
You don't see anything lengthen.
right, what happens here is that really you've got an epsilon connecting vowel,
Yeah.
right? It gets lengthened to an eta, but because the alpha's in front of it, it contracts and the alpha consumes it.
So it doesn't lengthen.
Well, it lengthened, it just died too, because the alpha.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So you end up not seeing the lengthened vowel, which is a little bit of a pain in the rear.
So how do you know if this is subjunctive or indicative?
Okay, that's a good question. How do you know whether this is subjunctive or indicative? I'm not just going to tell you, by the way.
Yeah, figured.
Figured. Sure.
Uh,
I hate people like you.
The subjunctive numbers are red.
In the translation? Or just what?
Context?
Conditional statement in the front of it, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
What chapter was contracted in?
Was it 8? I'm taking a guess.
No way. Verbs didn't start till like 15.
Oh, I'm sorry.
17.
17? I was way off. Okay. Now it looks like the epsilon omega, you're going to be able to tell a little bit better.
The epsilon omega?
Yeah, but not totally better. Or the epsilon iota. Or epsilon, yeah, so like poieto. You're gonna be able to tell that one because you are going to see a lengthened eta there.
Which rule are you on?
I'm on page 143, 17.6, contract verb paradigm.
Okay.
Yeah, so it looks the same. Wait.
Yeah.
31.
Well, I guess. Okay. This really stinks. You can't even tell.
Can't tell.
I mean, for some of them you can, but not for all of them.
Not for all of them. And again, context becomes king. Context, context, context.
That's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
Bless you.
And remember, it's only in the first, second, third singular that you have that issue.
First, second, third singular. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So the rest of them are easy.
This used to be.
But it's the first, second, third singular that gives you that pain in the rear.
Okay. So I guess, okay, all right.
You with me?
I'm with you.
Okay. And the first plural. Well,
In the first plural. Really? Oh yeah, you're right.
Just the alpha. It looks like the epsilon and omega are different enough for you.
Are they?
Yeah.
The epsilon. No, the omega. The omega.
Yeah, but the epsilon contract verbs have the omicron epsilon, and so do the omicron omega words like plerao or something. But it looks like in the subjunctive they do have the lengthened vowel.
This is interesting.
Yeah. So it can be a little bit of a pain in the rear to deal with some of the contract verbs, but you're going to have to start identifying stuff as this is contract, this is normal, this is what's happening, I see a circumflex. And on some of them, you're just going to have to parse them. It could be either this or this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You got to be able to think through all of it.
Yep.
Fun. So you see in the halftime review, look at the first statement. While the indicative is the mood of reality, the subjunctive is the mood of possibility or probability. The subjunctive is formed from the present tense stem and indicates continuous action. The subjunctive formed from the aorist tense stem indicates an undefined action. There's no absolute time in the subjunctive. There's no future, and the continuous and undefined subjunctives use the same primary endings. So let's move on to the uses of the subjunctive.
Okay.
So there's different uses. The idea of probability, like may or might, that's only one form of use, right? Subjunctive often gets combined with other words. And when it gets combined with other words in syntax, in your context, it means something totally different. So, like hina in the subjunctive, it can indicate purpose, which makes sense, right?
In order that.
Right, hina is in order that. But the subjunctive gives it a little bit more of a power of purpose, right? So,
sure.
Who gave you this authority? that you do these things. So they asked him so that they could accuse him. At that point, it pulls away it gets away from the probability or possibility realm. It moves more into the purpose realm.
Yeah.
Okay. So hina me can also be translated like lest, which I love using that word by the way. It's just fantastic. Lest translating. I don't know. Just for fun. So aeon in the subjunctive. This is a conditional statement.
Would you like
So what does aeon mean again?
sit inside with air conditioning, or would you like outside? Okay, let's go outside. Yeah.
Okay, good.
What does aeon mean? Yeah. Yeah. Which makes sense because if is how you would form a conditional phrase, right? What do I mean by conditional phrase?
If this, then that.
Yeah. Okay. Any parent knows that one very well, right? If you clean your room, then I'll let you play a video game. If you don't clean your room, then I will tear your rear end up. So you've got if-then phrases. Aeon and the subjunctive. Now, the Greek has multiple ways to form those conditional phrases, and they're all very important because they communicate different things. So aeon in the subjunctive, I believe, is a third-class condition.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if you look down here, a third-class condition. Look down at the, I don't know what paragraph it is. It says conditional sentences are classified by their form and given the titles first class, second class, third class, and fourth class. Third-class conditional sentences always have a protasis introduced by aeon and a verb in the subjunctive. The verb and the apodosis can be any tense or mood, indicative or whatever. There are two subdivisions of third-class conditions. So this is where things get really exciting, and there's a book that all of you are going to want to have for exegesis and intern. And that book is this one. This one. This one.
That was not helpful.
Yeah. So this book is by Daniel Wallace, Greek Grammar Beyond the Basics. It's an intermediate Greek book. But what it will do is it will walk into things like the subjunctive and conditional clauses, and will start giving you the information behind when a subjunctive is formed with this other word, it actually is carrying the emphasis of this. And it's really important that you bring that across in your translation and your teaching. So subjunctive can have many ways. The third-class conditional, do you understand the terminology of protasis and apodosis, by the way?
I just think that the P word is the first part and the A word is the second part.
Right. So protasis would be like proto, right? The first beginning. Protasis is the first half of the statement, and the apodosis would be the butt of the statement, the back end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are terms that, like, even using them in your exegesis paper are going to make you look good. So remember protasis, apodosis, things like that. But you can look at the different uses of the conditional down at the bottom of 293. Future more probable. A future condition says that if something might happen, then something else will definitely happen. The speaker is thinking of a specific event in the future. So look at some of these translations. All these I give you, if you will. This is it might happen if you will fall down in the future. If this might happen, and worship me. I will basically, so it's if you'll fall down and worship me, I'll give you, or all these things I'll give to you. You see what I'm saying? So there's a future more probable is this idea of something in the future that is a possibility, or probability. If it happens, it comes with a definite. This is what you will get. Okay? Yeah. There's also the present general. A general condition is identical in form to the future more probable condition, except that the verb in the apodosis must be in the present tense. Its meaning is slightly different from the future more probable. Instead of saying something about a specific event that might happen, it is stating a general truth an axiomatic truth, the subjunctive is appropriate because the truth of the statement is timeless. If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble. Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. So you will learn more as you go through your next or your exegesis courses, more about those conditional statements.
Okay.
Actually, if you get to the end of all of this too, Mounts will teach you more about the other conditional first, second class, I think.
Okay.
Right now, I think it's just third class that he's concerned with.
Okay.
So those are all dependent clauses. In order that, if, then, those are dependent clauses. Now there are some independent clauses. The hortatory subjunctive is important. The first person subjunctive, either singular or plural, can be used as an exhortation. And it's the first person subjunctive. When you see a first person subjunctive, you generally assume that it's a hortatory subjunctive. It will usually be plural and occur at the beginning of the sentence. Use let me or let us in the translation.
Okay.
The proseuchomai is a subjunctive, but it's a hortatory subjunctive. Let us play. So, yeah. Independent clause, deliberate subjunctive. When a person asks a question and the answer is uncertain, the verb in the question is put in the subjunctive. So therefore, do not worry saying, what should we eat? So the answer is uncertain, right? We don't know what the answer is. So that verb in the question would be a subjunctive. And so that's a deliberate subjunctive. How you guys feel?
Swell.
I see you guys glazing over. Your heads are going down. You guys are like, a little angry with me.
A little bit.
Didn't write the book. But there's dependent and independent clauses. And there's more than that. The Mounts is just interested in knowing you.
Yeah.
Purpose, okay, and conditional.
Purpose and conditional, is that what you just said?
Yeah, those are dependent. So hina with the subjunctive denotes purpose.
Okay.
Aeon with the subjunctive denotes a third-class condition.
Okay.
Okay?
And third-class condition means what again?
Third-class conditional is that I believe that it states essentially that the outcome is a sure thing.
Okay, got it.
So
you kind of treat it like a noun, or I'm sorry, like a verb? I mean...
yeah, it is a verb.
I mean, like you treat it like you don't treat it as a probability. Sorry, that's what I meant.
No, these are other than probability. Probability is one way to do...
yeah, it lists like all the different ways. I was trying to find that, and it was helpful for me.
Lists what different ways?
How the subjunctive... yeah, like on page 287, the first little square there, the subjunctive is used when the verb expresses a possibility, probability, exhortation, and what is that word? Axiomatic concept?
Axiomatic.
Is that what Mouse is talking about with the uses of the different uses? Are these the axiomatic?
Yeah, the axiomatic is
Okay.
we just read about that like a few seconds ago.
Oh, okay.
Where did we read about it?
$31.15.
Did you find it? Thank you.
294. Its meaning slightly different from the future, more probable. Instead of saying something about a specific event that might happen, if it is, it is stating a general truth and axiomatic truth. Is that it?
Okay, where is that?
Were you 294, like second paragraph?
Oh, got it. It's up here. Yeah, there it is. Yes. So this is under the present general. Its meaning is slightly different than future probable. Instead of saying something about a specific event that might happen, it is stating a general truth, an axiomatic truth. So that's essentially going back to your overview. Possibility, probability, exhortation, or axiomatic.
Go to your room.
Axiomatic is going to be that conditional.
It's going to be the what?
Conditional aspect of it. The aeon and the subjunctive.
Okay. Okay. The conditional.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So there's a lot to it, and keep in mind, this is where you're going to get into, it's not going to be hard at the end of Greek, and I felt like this with Hebrew too, when we were in Hebrew. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be hard to to identify subjunctives. It's going to be easy to identify them. There's not much more you have to learn in memorizing paradigms or charts or anything.
Yeah.
But now this is where things get weird because they can now have a wide variety of meanings. Now that we're out of the indicative, it means a bunch of different other stuff.
Right. Yep.
Mounts is teaching it this way because he wanted you to get a grasp on the easy stuff first. And now this is what translators often fight over. They don't fight over the first 20 chapters of your book.
Right.
You know, they fight over, well, this is this type of phrase and these two words together have this meaning, and you know, so this is a little bit in that realm. And we're only brushing the surface of it.
Right.
So
that's helpful.
Yeah. And you're gonna see the same thing when we get over to the imperative or the infinitive next. You're gonna find that the infinitive has a billion different ways it can be used, even more so. It's got reason, purpose, temporal, purpose, result, and you're gonna have to remember all of those and how they, and it's all different prepositions. When infinitive is with dia, it's reason and purpose. When it's ace, it's reason and purpose. Pros, pro, en, meta. So you're going to find that now your non-indicative verbs are getting paired with things, and it's drawing out different meaning for them. On the conditionals, and I know Mounts has it, but of course I'm not going to be able to find it right now because I'd like to go over it, and it's not going to let me find it. But as soon as we hang up here, and I click Stop Broadcast, nope, I lied. I found it. Look at page 329.
Okay.
Okay, 328 and 329 in your book, chapter 35, actually walks through all conditional sentences.
Okay. Do you think this would be helpful to read ahead?
Well, you can. It just gives you, because what you're doing is you're learning a third-class conditional, but Balance isn't telling you what it is. Okay?
Right.
Yeah. So he's even referring back to, in chapter 31, you learn the two versions of third-class conditional sentence both have a protasis introduced with aeon and a verb in the subjunctive. Sometimes the protasis is hypothetical. The future more probable and the present general. We learned about those. There are 4 types of conditional sentences. There is no complete example of the 4th class in the New Testament, so I will concentrate here on the first 2 by way of review. So the if clause is the protasis, the then clause is the apodosis. Conditional sentences are most easily clarified or classified by their structure specifically, by the word that introduces the protasis, the tense, mood of the verb in the protasis, and sometimes the tense, the verb in the apodosis. So, so as we look at it, the first class conditional, it says, also called conditions of fact, these sentences are saying that if something is true, and let's assume for the sake of argument that it is true, then such and such will occur. So a first class conditional, the protasis, the if statement, is assumed true. And you can see the example. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Right? That's an if-then statement, and if your right hand caused you to sin, the assumption is that's true. Well, then, if that's true, cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a first-class conditional. Second-class conditional, also called contrary to fact, this construction is saying that if something is true, even though it is not, then such and such would occur. The falseness of the process is assumed in the argument. Okay? So this one, in the second-class conditional, the process, the if statement, is assumed false. The other one was assumed true. Look at the example. For if they had known, so it's this, they didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
they would have crucified, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. So that's a second-class conditional because it's this idea of it's assuming that it's not true. For if they had known, it's assuming they just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The first class is assuming it's true. If your right hand causes you to sin, we're just going to assume that's true. Cut it off. Second class is if they had known, which is assuming they didn't know. So it's assuming the falseness of the argument.
Right.
Then we're going to make a then statement. They would not have crucified the Lord of glory. The third class conditional, just to answer your question, is it's an unknown. If the first class is assuming it's true, the second class is highlighting the falseness. The third class, the if statement, it's an unknown, whether it's true or not.
Where is he doesn't talk about it?
No, I'm telling you that.
Okay.
Because that's what he's saying back in our chapter 31.
Okay.
So the statement is not known. And that's the example he gives us back here in this stuff, is this sort of, if we confess our sins. That's it. Not stating we didn't, right? It's just saying if you do that. If you do it, then he is faithful and just to forgive our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness.
So it's depending on whether we do it.
Right. So it's an unknown. Like, it's not trying to make a statement that it's true. It's not trying to make a statement that it's false. It's just saying if this happens. I don't know if it happens or not, but if it does, that's a third class condition. Okay? And you can tell the conditionals, back over to 329, you can tell the conditionals by the way that they're structured.
Okay.
The first class is any mood, any tense, with A in the indicative. Second class is A in the indicative in the protasis and on an indicative in the apodosis. Third class conditional is A on in the subjunctive. And the apodosis is any mood, any tense. Does that make sense? I don't want to overwhelm you.
Yeah, so any mood, any tense.
Yeah, that's saying apodosis. So the protasis, the if statement, if it's first class, is going to be A.
Right, yeah.
Right. And then the apodosis is going to have any mood, any tense verb.
Right.
Okay. Second class is going to be A in the indicative. Okay. Now keep in mind, those first and second class, the reason they're not in this is because they're not formed with
Hello?
indicative in the protasis, and any mood, any tense in the apodosis is the first class, assuming it's true. In the second class, an A plus the indicative plus on in the indicative in the apodosis is a second class which assumes it's not true. Okay? And then third class, which makes no call about it, is the one that has actually the subjunctive in it, which is A on plus the subjunctive.
Okay, so that's why we're just concentrating on that.
Yeah, in any mood, any tense. Am I still frozen, Sharon? No?
Yeah.
I was about to do my face for you. So, not to overwhelm you, but that's the issue with conditionals. The third class conditional is the only one that contains a subjunctive. That's why we're learning it now in this chapter.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, that was helpful.
Yeah. And so the conditional statement is not making any call, whether it's true or false. It's just saying if. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So odds and ends. Let's look at these things. Negation. Okay? It's not in the indicative, so it cannot be negated like it typically would by oo, right? The indicative is negated by oo.
Mm-hmm.
The non-indicative is typically negated by may.
May.
Actually, oo may. So this one takes both of them. Look at the negation. The basic rule is that oo is used to negate a verb in the indicative, while may is used to negate everything else, including the subjunctive. There is one specific construction using the subjunctive that needs to be stressed. The construction oo may, followed by the aorist subjunctive, is a strong negation of a future situation. So, stronger than simply saying oo, the two negatives do not negate each other. They strengthen the construction and say no more emphatically. Paul does this a lot, especially in Romans. He's got this ume construction that's kind of like a no, not never, right?
Yeah.
And so it's bad English, but Paul is making a stronger statement than just saying no, don't do this. He's saying no, not never. No, don't even let it cross your mind. So you're going to get a lot of that when you get to Romans class, but ume is a pretty strong negation. Questions. It says there are always three ways to ask a question. No indicative is given as to the answer expected by the speaker. Or no indication, indicative. No indication is given as to the answer expected by the speaker. This is one question. Are you the king of the Jews? That's Pilate asking Jesus. So that's just a regular one. If the question begins with ooh, the speaker expects an affirmative answer. Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? The disciples assume that he cares, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if the question begins with may, the speaker expects a negative answer. Take, for instance, 1 Corinthians, are all apostles? Paul expects everybody to go, no. So those are the way questions are formed. So when you see just the regular question, there's no indication as to the answer. That's just with the question mark at the end, right? But when the question begins with ooh, or has ooh in it, is negated by ooh, then it expects a positive answer. May expects a negative answer. Right?
Okay.
Okay, and I don't care. So, all right.
Not that I don't care, just I remember that ooh is good, may is bad, and ooh may is really bad.
Ooh may is real bad. Yeah.
So may is begging a negative answer.
Yeah, ume is a double negative, but it doesn't cancel itself out in Greek. So ume is this no, not never,
Ever.
Yeah, ever, shut your face. Kind of.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I'm start telling my kids that. Ume.
No, not never.
Ume.
I'm saving it for the sex talk.
For the what? Wait. I did not hear that. Don't repeat that.
You can watch it later.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we have covered quite a bit of ground with the subjunctive. Are you guys irritated, or are you guys okay?
I feel like I need to go and study the past grammar in order to feel okay about this grammar, and I don't know if that's right.
Okay.
So
Just remember, there's two tenses in the subjunctive. What are they?
I'm sorry.
Two tenses in the subjunctive. What are they?
Present and aorist.
Right. There is no
Future.
Right.
Yep.
So good. Yeah, and it's just a matter of getting that stuff, those filters set, so that you've got all the information for it to filter down.
Yeah.
We worked through the ways to work through it, the different uses. You've got the probability, which is kind of just the base use, but then combined with other words, it has other uses. Hina drives it toward purpose, which makes sense. That's just logical.
Right.
Aeon drives it toward conditional, which makes sense because that's if, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just got to remember what kind of conditional it's driving at.
Right.
You've got hortatory subjunctive, which is a kind of a
statement.
Statement. Yeah, let us. Let us do this. It's almost got an imperative feel to it.
Right.
Kind of like a command. But it's not so much. But it is hortatory. So you got to remember the subjunctive isn't just possibilities. Subjunctive can also have a force to it.
Right.
And then the deliberate subjunctive. And that's the deliberative is the one where when a question's asked, if the answer is unsure, if we don't know what the answer is, the verb in the question will be a subjunctive.
The verb in the verb.
Yeah. It's like, what am I going to do tomorrow? If I were to make that statement, I have no idea what I'm going to do tomorrow. The answer is not sure.
The person asks a question, answers. The verb in the question is put in the subjunctive.
Right.
Okay.
So if I were to ask the question, what am I going to do tomorrow? I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, so I would put the tense of the verb, what am I going to do, in the subjunctive to communicate that we don't know the answer. Or if I were to ask the question, what does heaven look like?
You're going to church later.
I would put that in the subjunctive because we're unsure.
Okay. It's just like all those little small things.
Yeah, just the small things. So really we haven't covered that much. I mean, the forms can be confusing, but in all honesty, when you get into context, you're going to find the subjunctives easier than you think to identify.
What paradigm are we going to need to know for the quiz?
Ooh, you know what? I haven't even looked at that, so that's a good question.
I think it was 31.9. But I don't know if he wants us to know the aorist.
31. This is good. Okay, you got vocabulary, grammar, and translation. Do you remember the two words that we talked about? The two kind of directional words that help you identify the different uses of subjunctive?
Directional words?
Well, not directional. They just help you define the way the subjunctive is working.
Ina and Aeon.
There you go. Say those again.
Ina and Aeon.
Right. Hina.
Hina
and Aeon. Yeah, just make sure you got those down. Remember what's the main way that we know it's subjunctive?
The lengthened connecting vowel.
Absolutely. Perfect. And there are no charts. You have 5 parsings.
That's surprising.
All you have is vocab, a little grammar, and some parsing.
Okay. No translation?
There is a translation.
Okay.
But that's part of the grammar section.
Okay, gotcha.
One translation.
All right.
So, yeah, so really, you guys, and just remember.
Oh no, he froze.
Frozen.
You're frozen. Now he's frozen on that page.
Not frozen anymore, but yeah.
Oh,
I think I repeat all of that because you were frozen.
That's funny. Okay. You've got translation. Just remember, what chapter are we in?
31.
31.
Right, but what are we talking about?
Subjunctive.
All right, just remember that when you get to parsings. No subjunctives.
Okay.
Just
Ume.
know them good.
No, just wait. What?
No, I'm just messing around.
No good. I know.
Know them good. Know them well.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're doing.
Yeah. So really, you guys it should be a thing, this quiz. You should be all over it.
I have a question about the workbook.
Okay?
Bring
it.
Let me get there.
Tell me what you're working with.
I just had a quick question about. Oh man, I gotta find it. What page is 31 on? Why isn't in number 8 proselthomatha? Why is that not deponent?
Number 8.
It's mounts.
Huh?
Where are you?
On page 127, number 8 of the parsing. Why is the voice not deponent?
Oh, parsing.
Yeah, sorry.
Proselthomatha. Proselthomatha. Tell me.
Well, I thought it was pros ericomai, therefore it's deponent.
Right.
And it's passive.
Okay.
I thought it was middle, actually, but then I was like, oh, no, it's deponent.
But isn't a deponent something that's... Oh, it could be middle or passive, huh?
Okay, there's an answer to this question, and you're processing things well, so I want you to kind of get to it.
Okay. Okay, so we're in the subjunctive. I know it's aorist.
Okay.
So at first,
that's actually a great thought. It's aorist.
At first, I thought it was middle, and the reason I thought that was because it has a middle ending. Okay. But then I was like, oh, it's pros ericomai. Ericomai is deponent.
Well, I think you're right about all that. But I think you asked the right question. I think you made the right statement before.
What? That's middle?
Aorist.
Yeah, there you go. What's unique about the aorist here?
The aorist deponent forms from the omen or something. It's not the omai ending. It's different. It's that second.
No, it would be omai ending. Oh, but you're talking about the aorist deponent lexical would be the secondary endings. You're right about that.
Yeah, that's it.
But in this, okay, you're right. But why is this not deponent? Something specific about this word. What is this word in the aorist?
In the aorist?
Yes.
It uses the other root of ericomai.
Okay, but give me the word. Can you give me the word in the aorist? Aorist first person singular word for this.
It's like a loose something.
Okay, can you actually go to your vocab or the back of your book or something, look it up?
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't. Oh man, it doesn't do it.
It does.
It doesn't have the
back of your book?
It doesn't have the root. I was looking for the root.
Wait a minute. Read across. Read across the bottom. Remember how it gives you average form?
It says
ericomai.
Okay, which one's the aorist?
Aelthon?
Yes. Is Aelthon deponent?
No.
No.
Okay, because the deponent in aorist would be elfmain, right?
Yes.
Okay, so hold on.
Ericomai is deponent in the present, but when it gets to aorist, it's not actually active word.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, okay.
This is in the aorist and it has a middle ending. It's actually a middle word because this word is active in the aorist. It shifts over.
Then why does Mountain say it's passive?
He doesn't. He says it's middle.
Oh, I must have looked at it wrong. The answer sheet.
Yeah, no, he says it's middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I did have it right. Okay.
You put middle? Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
You're
but
right.
Then, but I didn't like.
You didn't know why.
Yeah, I mean, like I just knew it had. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it's not deponent because in the aorist, ericomai is actually active.
Yeah, I knew it was middle because it had middle passive endings.
Right. Okay.
So, but then I was like, it's ericomai, therefore it's deponent. But in the aorist form of ericomai, it's not deponent.
Right.
It's active.
Right.
Okay, I'm with you.
You with me?
Yep.
All right. Good work. Good work. Anything else pressing that you guys want to cover? We got a few minutes.
I gotta get ready to go to Bible study.
Okay. I'm supposed to have a birthday dinner with my in-laws.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Is it whose birthday?
Well, mine was yesterday.
Happy
Oh,
birthday!
happy birthday!
Thank you. I have one every 4 years, so.
Oh, that's right.
We'll catch me the next time. 2020 is when I'll have another one.
So how old are you? He froze. How old are you?
He's frozen.
Leap year.
I don't like that.
I did it. How old are you?
So I'm actually 36.
Oh, we're gonna be the same age.
Yay! Yeah, my son turned 9 January 16th, so he's telling me he's older than me.
You're 36, Joseph?
I am.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm
Aaron.
What? What's that?
What's wrong with 36?
No, there's nothing wrong with 36. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut.
You just called me old.
What?
I said, you just called me old?
I didn't say anything by that statement. You're making assumptions, which is not very good.
Because I am hurt.
I don't think you're
Don't feel
that
bad.
hurt.
I'll be up there with you in May.
I'm turning a solid 24 on Thursday.
Whoa! I am literally 12 years old.
Stop lying.
What?
No.
What? Yeah,
You're 24?
I will be.
So you and my baby girl will be celebrating your birthdays together. That's what's up. Happy birthday, girl.
Thanks.
When do you turn 24, Aaron?
Thursday.
Thursday. Wow.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Hey,
Hi,
Ted.
guys.
Same birthday.
Hey, Joseph, can you stay on just real fast?
Yes. All right, I'm stopping the broadcast.
Okay.